Tell me how much money you've asked the legislature for and for what purpose, and what is the alternative to that?
$1.5 billion, which includes about $800 million in 2 new prisons, 1 male, 1 female, and the rest of it is improving our programs, staff pay raise, trying to upgrade our antiquated facilities with current capital needs. If we don't get that, there really is no alternative. We'll just have to continue to put bigger Band-Aids on what has become deferred maintenance and is now ignored maintenance throughout our system. And we have over 28,000 incarcerated in our system. The state facilities, state-owned facilities, are at 153% of capacity. You add the contract beds, the halfway houses, and the 3 private prisons, that drops it down to 113% over capacity. And we still have people coming in literally every day into our system, and we don't have room for them. So I'm not sure what state leaders have in mind for us. We can't cut anymore. We're cut into the bone marrow, and our retention is such that of employees that we can't keep our best employees because we're so low on the totem pole when it comes to pay. And it's a system that's hurting and is going to break, and we're going to have a serious incident if we don't take some corrective action. And all these items that we're asking for are itemized in our FY 2019 budget. Our incarceration rate in Oklahoma is the highest, second highest in the country, and it shouldn't be that way. We tend to incarcerate everybody who breaks the law, as opposed to getting those individuals into some type of program that will help them. For example, 65% of our incarcerated population has a drug or alcohol problem. They shouldn't be in prison. They should be kept in their community and enrolled in a program that will actually help them. I get a kick out of these judges who say, Kris, you've been before me 3 times. There won't be a 4th time. I'm going to send you to prison so you can get some help. There is no help in prisons. Not for that kind of situation. We have gutted our programs over the last 20 years. We have fired the teachers and instructors to help make these citizens better individuals. You have to keep in mind, Kris, that over 90% of our population, 90% of the over 28,000 incarcerated, are going to return to society at some point. And we have to prepare those individuals to be better citizens and not make the same mistakes over and over and over again. The only way to do that is through programming, whether it's education or cognitive behavior or drug and alcohol and NA problems. We need to invest in these individuals. They're human beings, and all they have in prison is hope. And what little hope they have, the state of Oklahoma seems to be robbing them of that hope for a bright future. And I'm all about change. Obviously, the way we've been doing things hasn't turned out to the state's benefit, so it's time to start doing something to change all of that previous behavior of the state. We're an agency that is a core function of government, and we've been ignored by leaders for the last 50 years, maybe since the inception of the state, since we were a territory. Things have to change.
How much impact on your population and the age of your population has the truth in sentencing laws had? The 85. You've got it sort of 85.
85% is killing us.
Mm-hmm.
They have to serve 85% of our time. Most of those are medium classification, and that's where our growing bubble is.
Okay.
They can earn credits according to agency policy. They can earn credits, but those credits only kick in when they hit 85%.
Right.
And at that point, what the inmate has to make a judgment on, well, do I want to take advantage of the credits, get out under some type of supervision, or just stay a little bit longer and get out with no supervision?
Right. A lot of them apparently opt for no supervision.
That's exactly right, and that's the quandary we're in. And I suppose the 85% crimes were okay when they started. It was 2 or 3, crimes. Now we're up to 34, 35 crimes. I mean, what's the goal? To incarcerate everybody in the state of Oklahoma? That's 4 million people. Where am I going to put 4 million people?
I don't care about making people felons. I do not want to do that. I understand the negative effect and the lifelong effect that has on people. I don't want to charge someone with a felony to put them in prison. I don't get off on that. I don't get paid any more for doing that. There's no benefit to society by doing that just for the sake of doing that. Okay? But if I say you're going to go to prison for 10 years because I've now charged you with a felony for possession of methamphetamine, now are you going to go to treatment? And you may look at those kids that, if you have contact with your children still and still have a home, you may go, there's a little bit still left that I don't want to lose. And if I go to prison for 10 years, my kids are going to be 15, 16, 17, 18. I will not have been able to see them. I know they're not going to come see me in prison. The family's going to fall completely apart if they haven't already. And, okay, I don't want to get well. I love using drugs because my brain's broken. And it feels good. But, okay, I'll go to drug court. Or I'll go to some other program that you got for me. But it's only because I think you're going to put me in prison for 10 years.
Oklahoma is literally moments away from overtaking the state of Louisiana as having the highest incarceration rates in the entire country. Oklahomans for Criminal Justice Reform is going to be here long term, and we're going to continue the work that we've already started. Our first order of business is passing the Oklahoma Justice Reform Task Force bills with their full impacts intact. This session, if these 6 bills pass as the task force has recommended that they pass, Oklahoma will avert the 25% prison growth that is projected to occur over the next decade. That's all the prison growth stopped. If we do that, we will save our state $2 billion. That's billion with a B. Most importantly, we'll improve the lives, many lives in the process. This is our charge. Oklahomans for Criminal Justice Reform is a long-term, fully functioning advocacy group going forward. The goals of OCJR include to safely reduce incarceration, save taxpayer dollars, invest in alternatives to incarceration, and to create stronger families by keeping families intact. We have to consider alternatives like women in recovery, like remerge, like community sentencing, like drug court, like mental health court. We have to be about giving people second chances, setting people up for success and not failure. We're committed to helping Oklahoma reduce its prison population safely, soundly, in a way that not only saves money, but improves better outcomes. But the reality is this: we have limited resources in the state of Oklahoma. We have a balanced budget amendment in our state constitution. We are either going to spend our resources on incarceration, or we're going to spend it on treatment and mental health care, community support, job training, things of that nature. We don't have enough to do both. So the good news about the bills as they were generated originally is that they eliminate the growth, which gives us the opportunity then to begin to plan in a more proactive manner. A couple of the main provisions would enact some reforms as it pertains to habitual nonviolent offenders. Demita did a great job of explaining this. And so instead of sending a nonviolent offender to prison for life without parole for a repeated nonviolent offense, it would set some very clear limits on the amount of time, sentencing guideline, that a nonviolent repeat offender would have to spend in prison. That's a very significant reform. Another significant reform that Felicity pointed out would be to move our parole process to an administrative parole process, meaning that when nonviolent offenders have served at least a fourth of their sentence, and if they have a clean conduct, a clear record, they would automatically be paroled. unless there's a compelling reason not to. These bills also establish an administrative parole process for geriatric offenders so that after they reach a certain age and they have clear conduct, they could automatically be paroled and not have to go before the parole board to decide whether or not they're eligible. It would be assumed that they are eligible if their conduct is good and if they've done what they were supposed to do in prison. Very significant reform. Another reform would have to do with not sending people back to prison for technical violations. So we have a lot of people on supervision for a lot of time. And the custom, the culture in Oklahoma is to send people back to prison for violating the terms of their probation, not committing new crimes, but for technical violations. And these reforms eliminate sending people back to prison for technical violations.